Switching teams for NHL players is never easy. After being accustomed to a certain system, group of teammates, and team culture, players have to take in a whole new environment on the fly. For some, the transition happens seamlessly, and for others, it's not so easy. In this video, we're going to go over several players that have struggled quite a bit since joining new teams. But before we do, I'd like to give a quick shout out to my amazing patrons Hunter B, Dom M, Caden D, Jonathan H, Patrick K, and Francis B. If you'd like to support me on Patreon, plans start at just $1 a month and feature perks such as unseen analytics, video previews, monthly shoutouts, and more. If you'd like to support me and my work, simply click the link below to get started. And with that, here are 4 NHL players that haven't worked out on new teams. When GM Burch initially signed John Klingberg, he did so knowing that he wasn't the best at defense. By the time this past offseason came around, Klingberg's game had trended towards offense more than anything. Back during his days in Dallas, he was known as their power play specialist, as he was able to record 20 points on the power play alone on 4 different occasions. Even after departing from Dallas, Klingberg still demonstrated the immaculate puck-moving skills that he entered the league with. Unfortunately though, in the later stages of his career, Klingberg has strayed from playing a complete 200-foot game. One would definitely say that Klingberg and Toronto were destined to be a recipe for disaster from the start. Dion Phaneuf, Justin Holl, Jake Gardiner are just a few names from the lengthy list of whipping boys that Maple Leaf fans have harped on over the years. Knowing initially that Klingberg wasn't going to be Jake Muzzin and clear the net, or be physical in the slightest, this already put Klingberg at odds more so with fans. And to top it all off with the fact that he's been struggling offensively as well, this has created the perfect storm for the Toronto media to report on, as Klingberg hasn't notched a single point now in 8 games. Also, as I alluded to, Klingberg's defensive game has been non-existent. Since he's not producing offensively either, this has made him almost obsolete for head coach Sheldon Keefe. However, Klingberg has recently revealed the reason behind his sudden decline, as he told Sportsnet's own Luke Fox about a nagging injury. "It's always been there throughout my career, but I've been able to deal with it and work through it," Klingberg said. But it kind of hit a rock bottom here these last few weeks. Even though we have a legit reason behind the sudden drop-off in production, Klingberg's 1-year contract is now looking like a mistake. While it's hard to tell if Klingberg will play another game for Toronto, one thing's for certain: most wouldn't have predicted him only having 5 assists after 14 games played. It was just over a decade ago that both Nathan MacKinnon and Jonathan Drouin were making waves in the QMJHL while playing for the Halifax Mooseheads, as the duo helped their team capture the Memorial Cup in May of 2013. However, the two went their separate ways post-NHL entry draft. While MacKinnon has remained with the team that drafted him, Drouin's career has been less predictable. After playing for the Tampa Bay Lightning in their AHL affiliate, Drouin was then traded to Montreal. At first, former GM Marc Bergevin's decision seemed to be working out, as Drouin was able to notch 46 points in his debut season with the team after 77 games played. His best campaign came directly after, in which he recorded 53 points following 81 games played. Unfortunately though, due to injuries and the pressures of being a French player in a French city, Drouin's relationship with the Habs came to an abrupt end. In an effort to possibly rekindle the Halifax magic, GM Chris McFarland signed Drouin to a league minimum 1-year deal. Unfortunately though, the initial plan has yet to come to fruition. Currently, Drouin only has been able to muster up 3 points following 15 games played. His first goal, ironically assisted by MacKinnon, didn't come until 11 games into the season against the Seattle Kraken. He's also had a 9-game pointless skid as well, which hasn't helped his case either. At this rate, his projected point total for the season is looking to be 14 points after 72 games played. While yes, the Avs aren't losing much due to the cheap contract, it's still a letdown for those who were expecting something more from the former 3rd overall pick. Before we get back to the video, I quickly want to let you all know that Liquid IV is having a major sale on all of their products. With the holidays approaching, it's no secret that several of you will be enjoying a drink, 2, or however many you plan to have. Therefore, having something that hydrates you twice as fast as water does handy will help save you from a rough morning after. For 30% off your entire purchase, simply use my promo code AlyssaHope in all caps to receive your discount. All purchases will go towards the channel and will help support my YouTube endeavors. Simply click the link below to get started. And now, back to the video. When Oilers GM Ken Holland decided to bring in Jack Campbell during the offseason of last year, many saw this as a move in the right direction for the team. After not being able to get the term he was looking for from former GM Kyle Dubas, Campbell decided to take his talents to Alberta instead. Unfortunately though, right out of the gate pretty much, Soup as he's called, began to struggle immensely. In his first season with the Oil, he was inconsistent at best, meaning that he would have a solid game or the occasional shutout and follow it up with a few subpar performances after. The netminder finished his debut campaign with the Oilers with a .888 save percentage and a 3.41 goals against average. And despite training hard over the offseason and looking impressively decent in preseason, Campbell began to spiral into mediocrity as soon as games started counting. This time, however, Holland only allowed Campbell to display a 5-game sample size before placing him on waivers. Usually for goalies, a demotion to the AHL allows for a constructive stint of improvement and a break from the pressures of being an NHL goaltender. And before it got better, well, for Campbell, it got even worse. In his first AHL appearance with Bakersfield, Campbell let in 4 goals on 16 shots. However, to his credit, after a couple more rough games, Soup managed to record his first shutout in quite a while. Even still, knowing that he's set to make $5 million a season until 2027 and playing in the AHL, says that the Campbell contract was far from being Holland's brightest moment. For most who have had to watch Campbell's imminent demotion happen, it's been far from easy. To see a guy that's known as a great teammate and person in general struggle isn't what you want to see. Hopefully for Campbell, he'll continue to find his game in the minors and come back resilient as ever. As free agency inched closer and closer last summer, 2 teams remained in the mouths of NHL insiders as top destinations for Johnny Hockey: the Philadelphia Flyers and the New Jersey Devils. Therefore, when Gaudreau made the choice to sign with the Columbus Blue Jackets, it was shocking to say the least. Gaudreau, who signed a lengthy 7-year deal just shy of $10 million a season, was initially seen as the perfect addition to the lineup. With promising players in the pipeline and Patrick Laine in the mix, optimism was the underlying theme to start last season. And really, in all fairness, the forward's debut season as a Jacket wasn't completely terrible, as he was able to record 74 points following 81 games played. Sure, it wasn't the 115 he notched as a Flame, but it was decent, all things considered. However, even looking at that season and comparing it to the current campaign, anyone that was being objective would immediately see a huge contrast. So far this season, Gaudreau, after 19 games played, has only been able to put up 7 points throughout. Even more shockingly, it wasn't until his 10th game that he finally tickled the twine with a goal against Tampa. His shooting percentage is currently the worst he's ever had at the NHL level, with a 4.3, which is almost half of what it was last season. If Gaudreau continues producing at this rate, he'll finish out with 30 points, presuming he plays a full 82 games. And if the projections hold true, that would be his worst season yet, hypothetically. On the other side of the ice, Gaudreau unfortunately isn't impressing either, as he currently leads all CBJ forwards in giveaways with 10. Well, yes, he's not playing on the greatest team, just knowing that he's taking over 11% of the total team cap has to be frustrating for Jackets fans alone. In conclusion, yes, I initially was planning to add Jonathan Huberdeau to the list. However, since his game has been trending upwards lately, and it felt like Flames fans had been through enough, I decided not to address it. Another couple notable names that I left out for Ryan Reeves, and Thomas Tatar. If you felt like I missed a player that wasn't mentioned, I'd like to hear about it in the comments below. For those of you who are regularly consuming my content that haven't subscribed, I'd really appreciate it if you'd hit the subscribe button. And for those of you that have, clicking on the notifications bell will also help the channel a lot. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.